Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes a whole stack of sources, boils them down, and gives you the essential insights.
Helping you get truly well-informed, fast.
And today, we're tackling something that feels really relevant. It's this nagging question. We live in a time of amazing comfort, incredible progress, materially speaking.
Unprecedented.
Yeah,
Right.
so why do so many of us feel, I don't know, anxious, desperate, like everything's just kind of fucked?
And we're not talking about, historical catastrophe levels of fuck. It's different.
Exactly. Not that kind of awful. It's more perplexing. A modern kind of fuckedness that just doesn't seem to square with all the progress we see around us.
It really is a paradox. More stuff, more ease maybe, but less fulfillment, more overwhelm. Strange.
So for this deep dive, our main source is Mark Manson's book, Everything is Fucked, a book about hope.
Yeah, and it's quite a book. Very raw, very insightful, often goes against the grain, It looks at the psychology behind why we do what we do and these big societal trends.
So our mission for you, listening in, is to pull out those aha moments, those nuggets that help you understand why this paradox is happening.
We want to unpack how your own mind works, really, and what that means for finding meaning, finding control, maybe even real freedom in this flood of information and distraction we live in.
Be prepared, though. We're going to hit some uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
About ourselves, about society.
And about hope itself, how it's this deep need we have, but it can be a real double-edged sword.
Okay, let's dive in.
So Manson starts us off with something he calls the uncomfortable truth. And it's blunt.
How blunt are we talking?
He basically says, you and everyone you love will die. And beyond a small group of people for an extremely brief period of time, little of what you say or do will ever matter.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's uncomfortable is the right word. That's a heavy dose of cosmic insignificance right there.
It really is. It's the kind of thing our minds instinctively try to avoid thinking about.
So for cosmically tiny specks, how do we even function? What keeps us going, according to Manson? What about hope?
Hope. That's key. He argues our psyche absolutely needs hope to survive. It's like the fuel for our mental engine.
Fuel for the mental engine. I like that.
Yeah. Without that belief that the future holds something better, that things might improve, we basically spiritually die.
So hopelessness isn't just feeling down. It's foundational.
He frames it as the root cause of so much distress, anxiety, mental illness, depression, addiction. He sees it as a collective crisis of hope, especially in our modern world.
Okay, if hope is that vital, like fuel, what makes it up? What are the ingredients, so to speak? How do we build it? Keep it going.
He breaks it down into 3 essential pillars. You need all 3, really.
All right, what's the first one?
First, a sense of control. You need to believe genuinely that you can affect your own life, your own fate, that your actions matter.
Makes sense. What's number 2?
Second, belief in value. Finding something that feels important enough to strive for, something worth the effort, worth caring about deeply.
Okay, control, value, and the third.
Community. Being part of a group that shares those values you believe in and is working towards similar goals.
And these are interconnected. Losing one affects the others.
Absolutely. He emphasizes that if you lose just one of these, control, value, or community, it can cascade and you can lose all 3, and then hope itself just collapses.
That's a really clear framework: control, value, community. And Manson uses a really powerful historical example to show just how potent hope can be, even in the absolute worst circumstances imaginable. Tell us about Witold Pilecki.
Pilecki. His story is almost unbelievable. He was a Polish war hero in World War II. And he did something extraordinary.
What did he do?
He voluntarily got himself arrested to infiltrate Auschwitz.
Wait, he chose to go into Auschwitz?
Yes, intentionally. His superiors thought he was mad, but his goal was to go inside, organize an espionage ring, gather intelligence, and eventually, hopefully, engineer an escape from within the concentration camp.
It's staggering bravery. Walking into hell like that, what did he actually manage to do inside?
Well, once inside, he found it was even worse than anyone outside imagined. People were just worked to death. He said 1/3 of the prisoners in his barracks died in the first month. Just gone.
Unimaginable. How did he keep hope alive in that?
Somehow, by the end of 1940, he'd set up this espionage operation. He was getting information out to the Allies. He built a network, trying to keep spirits up, gathering data. It's incredible.
And he actually escaped, didn't he? It wasn't just about spying.
He did. Planned it meticulously. cutting wires, prying open a door, making a run for it under fire, navigating by the stars. It's pure heroism.
So Manson uses him as the ultimate example of, what, conjuring hope.
Exactly. The ability to conjure hope where there is none. Showing that a better world, or at least the possibility of one, could exist even in the darkest pit imaginable.
It certainly puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Our everyday complaints, the stuff we get worked up about, compared to that level of fucked.
It really does, like those couch potato pundit complaints Manson mentions. But there's a twist to Pilecki's story, a tragic one.
Ooh. What happened after the war?
His hope was always for a free, independent Poland. But after the war, the communists took over, and they saw him as a threat.
So they captured him.
Yes. Captured, brutally tortured. He told his wife later that Auschwitz, compared to the communist prison, was just a trifle.
That's horrifying.
He refused chances to flee Poland. He wanted to die Polish. So the very hope that fueled his incredible heroism in Auschwitz ultimately led to his destruction. It shows how hope itself can be, well, perilous, double-edged.
What a story. Profound and deeply sad. Okay, so that's hoped on this grand, almost mythical scale. But let's bring it back inside our own heads. Manson has this great analogy for understanding our internal world, right?
He does. The consciousness car. It's a really useful way to think about it.
Okay, paint the picture for us. What's the consciousness car?
Imagine your mind is this car driving along. Inside, there are two passengers basically running the show. You've got the thinking brain.
That's our logic, reason, conscious thoughts.
Exactly. And then you have the feeling brain.
Emotions, impulses, gut feelings, intuition, all that stuff.
Precisely. So you've got these two characters in the car.
So who's actually driving? And how well do they get along?
Well, that's the crux of it. Their relationship is often pretty dysfunctional. More often than not, Manson says, the feeling brain is the one grabbing the wheel. It's driving based on its desires, its impulses.
And the thinking brain? Is it just along for the ride?
The thinking brain's tendency, he says, is to basically sit in the passenger seat and start drawing maps after the feeling brain has already decided where it wants to go.
So it rationalizes the feeling brain's choices after the fact.
Pretty much. It justifies the direction. And this self-serving bias, as he calls it, can cause real problems. Prejudice, self-centeredness. In extreme cases, you get outright delusion.
Think about it, listener. How many times have you felt like doing something, done it, and then cooked up all the logical reasons why it was a good idea?
We all do it, right? And this whole dynamic connects to a really old idea in philosophy and psychology.
The classic assumption, he calls it.
Yeah. This long-held belief, from Socrates and Plato all the way to Descartes, even Freud, the idea that emotions are the problem, that they're messy, irrational, and our rational thinking brain must be in control. Reason has to dominate feelings.
But Manson argues that's fundamentally wrong.
He does, and he uses a really compelling case study to challenge it. The story of a man named Elliot.
Right, Elliot. His case is fascinating. He had brain surgery for a tumor, correct? And cognitively, he was fine.
Totally fine. IQ, memory, logical reasoning skills all intact, but the surgery damaged the part of his brain responsible for processing emotion.
So what happened to him? He lost his job, his family.
He became what neuroscientist Antonio Damasio called an indifference machine. He couldn't feel the consequences of his actions. He could list pros and cons for hours about a decision, but he could never feel which one was better or what actually mattered to him.
So he couldn't make effective decisions.
Nope. Couldn't manage his life, couldn't hold down a job. His case was revolutionary because it showed really clearly that you need emotions to reason effectively. They're not separate, they're intertwined. Logic without feeling is rudderless.
An indifference machine.
That's a chilling thought. And this connects to the history of lobotomies too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Lobotomies were based on that same flawed classic assumption: suppress the troublesome emotions, cure the mental illness.
But the reality was often horrific.
Often created, essentially, Elliot's. Mindlessly satisfied zombies, Manson calls them. People who lost their drive, their ability to plan, to focus, to have careers. Just flat.
And the irony Manson points out about the Soviets banning it first.
Yeah, it's a real wake-up call, as he says, when Stalin's regime is lecturing the West on medical ethics because they saw lobotomy as contrary to human principles. It tells you something was deeply wrong.
It makes you think about that Tom Waits quote Manson includes. Right, about choosing the problem of passion with the bottle than have no passion at all. There's a deep wisdom there, isn't there? Those messy impulses are part of being alive.
And this old assumption, this bias against emotion, it still shapes how we judge people today.
Definitely. Think about how society often judges people struggling with obesity, addiction, depression. There's often this underlying blame, this idea that they just lack self-control, that they've failed emotionally.
So if suppressing the feeling brain is disastrous and letting it run wild leads to chaos, what's the answer? How do we get the thinking brain and feeling brain to, like, work together in the car?
It's about dialogue, not suppression, but engagement. The thinking brain needs to learn to talk to the feeling brain, not just at it.
How does that work practically?
The thinking brain needs to develop some empathy. Ask the feeling brain, hey, how do you feel about this choice? What's your gut reaction? And then, crucially, the thinking brain needs to appeal to the feeling brain using feelings.
So not just logic, but describing the positive emotions.
Exactly. Talk about how good it will feel to exercise consistently, or the sense of integrity you'll feel living by your values. Frame the benefits emotionally.
It sounds like work, an ongoing negotiation.
It is work. It's challenging, but it's how you get both brains listening to each other, making better decisions together, and maybe even improving the feeling brain's impulses over time. You lead with feeling, guided by reason.
Okay, this internal dynamic, this car journey, it sets the foundation for how we experience the world and what motivates us. And Manson brings in Newton's laws of emotion here. What's the first law about?
Newton's first law of emotion. Every action demands an equal and opposite emotional reaction.
Okay, unpack that. What does it mean in emotional terms?
It relates to what Manson calls moral gaps. Our brains are constantly scanning for fairness, for balance. When we perceive an injustice or feel we've been wronged, or even if we wrong someone else, it creates this emotional deficit, this gap.
And we're driven to close that gap.
Exactly. We have this intrinsic desire for emotional equalization, to make things feel right or balanced again emotionally.
Can you give an example? How does this play out?
He tells a great story about a friend. She was a total party animal, you know? Her values were all about DJs, festivals, staying out late. That's what felt good, what filled her emotional needs at the time.
Okay.
Then she did some volunteer work with orphans in a developing country, a really intense experience, and her entire value system just flipped.
How so?
Suddenly, saving kids from suffering became her highest value, and the partying, it just stopped being fun completely.
Because her values changed. The gap she needed to fill was different.
Precisely. The fun wasn't inherent in the activity. It was a product of her values. When the values shifted so dramatically, what brought her positive emotional reaction changed too. She didn't feel like she'd lost anything. She'd gained something more meaningful.
That's a powerful illustration of values dictating emotional response. Okay, what's the second law?
Newton's second law of emotion. Our self-worth equals the sum of our emotions over time.
So our sense of self is like an emotional bank account.
Kind of. If you constantly experience negative emotions, shame, guilt, fear, without balancing positive ones, your self-worth plummets. You feel worthless.
And the opposite, if you get lots of unearned praise or success.
That can lead to an inflated, perhaps delusional high self-worth, narcissism, entitlement. And because self-worth is built over time, early experiences are really formative. Being bullied as a kid can leave you feeling like a dweeb, as Manson puts it, long into adulthood, unless you consciously rework that emotional sum.
So self-worth is this running tally of feelings.
Yeah.
But what about our values themselves? Where do they come from? Are they just feelings?
Not quite. Manson argues our values are the stories our thinking brain creates to make sense of what the feeling brain is experiencing. They're the narratives we construct.
Narratives, like personal myths.
Exactly. These stories define who we think we are, what matters to us, they shape our identity, and they determine who we connect with. We're drawn to people whose narratives resonate with ours and repelled by those whose stories contradict ours.
So if our values are these deeply held stories, how can we change them if they're not serving us well? If they're based on old pain or unhealthy patterns?
He suggests two main strategies. First, you have to revisit your past narratives.
Go back and rewrite the stories?
Sort of. It's about reinterpreting past experiences, asking different questions. Was I really the awful person in that situation, or was I just a kid reacting badly? What did I learn? It gives you a chance to have a do-over on those old beliefs that might be holding you back and build a clearer sense of self-worth based on a revised story.
Okay, reevaluating the past. What's the second strategy? Something about future narratives.
Yeah, writing future narratives. This involves actively envisioning the kind of person you want to be with the healthier values you want to have.
Like visualization.
Yes, but with a twist. Manson stresses that truly effective visualization for changing values should actually feel uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Why?
Because it needs to challenge your current unhealthy values. If you're materialistic, fantasizing about not wanting the yacht or feeling genuine satisfaction from simple things might feel weird, even unpleasant at first. If you're addicted to outrage, imagining feeling calm and compassionate towards your enemies would be deeply uncomfortable. That discomfort signals you're actually pushing against the old value system.
That's counterintuitive. We usually think visualization should feel good.
Right, but if it feels too good, you might just be reinforcing your existing desires. The discomfort shows you're stretching.
Does he give an example of a powerful, maybe unconventional narrative?
He mentions Jocko Willink, the former Navy SEAL. Willink apparently tells himself he has an enemy who's always training, always getting stronger, and that narrative motivates him to get up at 4:30 a.m. and push himself relentlessly.
Objectively, there's no enemy, but the story works emotionally.
Exactly. The story might be fictional, but the emotional drive it creates is real and powerful. Manson's point is that without these kinds of future narratives, these guiding stories, we're just stuck. We're doomed to repeat the failures of our past pain.
So our values, our narratives, they shape us internally. How do they affect how we interact in the world with other people?
They create what Manson calls emotional gravity.
Emotional gravity, like pulling people together or pushing them apart.
Precisely. Our values act like magnets. We're drawn to people who share similar narratives and value systems, and we're often repelled by those with opposing ones. This leads to people naturally clustering and conforming into constellations of mutually shared value systems. We form tribes based on shared stories.
But even though humans share a lot of core values,
It's the slight differences that generate the most heat. Manson says those slight differences generate emotion, and emotion generates a sense of importance. So we end up focusing on what divides us, making those differences seem way more significant than our similarities.
which leads to conflict.
Perpetual conflict. He brings in Freud's idea here, the narcissism of the slight difference. We define ourselves by fighting against those who are only slightly different from us.
That feels very true to life, especially online. And speaking of conflict and values, Manson draws on Nietzsche here, right? His ideas about master and slave morality.
Yes, Nietzsche had these really profound insights into how different groups construct their moral frameworks. He identified two main types.
Okay, what's master morality?
Master morality is typically developed by those in power, the strong, the privileged, the rulers. They basically say, what's good is what's good for us. Our strength, our excellence, our power makes us inherently good. It's a kind of might makes right justification for their status.
And slave morality.
That arises among the oppressed, the disadvantaged, the weak. They flip the script. They say, we are good because we suffer. Our humility, our compassion, our endurance makes us virtuous. The powerful are actually evil. They value things like pity, kindness, patience qualities that help the collective survive hardship.
So two fundamentally different ways of seeing the world, rooted in social position.
And both, crucially, generate hope for their respective groups. Master morality offers the hope of continued dominance. Slave morality offers the hope of eventual justice or reward for suffering.
Historically, master morality was dominant in, say, ancient warrior cultures.
Right. And then slave morality, particularly through Judeo-Christian ethics, emphasizing charity and humility, became incredibly influential.
And Nietzsche saw these two clashing. What did he predict?
He predicted huge future conflicts, but not wars between nations in the old sense. He saw them as wars between these value systems, these different gods. He said they would be wars not for God. They would be between gods. And they would unleash destruction on a scale never seen before because they were fights about fundamental identity and meaning.
Chilling. And it feels like it resonates with some of the ideological clashes we see today, which brings us right back to where we started this deep dive, the paradox of progress.
Yes. Despite reaching levels of wealth, health, and comfort unimaginable just a few generations ago,
What's happening, especially in rich, developed countries?
an irrational sense of hopelessness is spreading. It's bizarre.
And this isn't just a vague feeling. There's data.
Oh, yeah. Rising rates of depression, anxiety disorders, lower reported life satisfaction, more stress, soaring drug overdose deaths, increased loneliness, and social trust is just plummeting. All while, objectively, many external markers of well-being are better than ever.
Why? Why does getting better seemingly make us feel worse? It makes no sense.
Manson explains it with a concept called the blue dot effect.
The blue dot effect. What's that?
It's a psychological finding. Imagine you're shown lots of dots, most are purple, a few are blue, you easily spot the blue ones. But if you gradually reduce the number of blue dots until there are hardly any, your brain starts defining lighter shades of purple as blue.
So as the actual problem blue dots decreases, our definition of the problem expands to include things that weren't problems before.
Exactly. As real threats or major problems diminish in our lives, our minds recalibrate. We start perceiving smaller, previously insignificant issues as major threats.
Like how the definitions of trauma or violence have expanded.
That's one example Manson uses. Or think about minor social awkwardness being labeled toxic. He also references Emil Durkheim's old thought experiment.
The sociologist.
Yeah. Durkheim imagined a society of saints, perfect individuals. Would there be no crime? No, he said. They would just start judging minor faults, things we wouldn't even notice, with the same severity we reserve for actual crimes. Their definition of deviance would shrink to encompass tiny imperfections.
So the better things get, the more sensitive we become to minor negatives and the more upset we get about them.
The more we perceive threats where there are none, and the more upset we become. It's a feedback loop.
Which leads to another really uncomfortable idea from Manson.
Pain. That pain, not happiness, is the universal constant.
Like Einstein and relativity. Space and time are relative, but the speed of light is constant.
Similar idea. Happiness is relative, it comes and goes, it depends on context. But pain. Pain is the baseline experience of life. It's the constant we measure everything else against.
So trying to eliminate all pain is futile. Or worse.
Worse, Manson argues. Trying to eliminate pain just makes us hypersensitive to it. We start seeing dangerous ghosts in every nook and perceiving tyranny and oppression in every authority because our tolerance for discomfort plummets.
And numbing pain also numbs pleasure.
It numbs everything. If you numb the lows, you inevitably numb the highs too. You essentially check out of the full experience of living.
Okay, so if pain is inevitable and trying to avoid it makes things worse, how do we grow? How do we handle it constructively?
Manson talks about 3 stages of psychological growth related to how we deal with pain and values.
What's the first stage?
Childish values. This stage is all about pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain immediately. Values are fragile. When pain inevitably shows up, the response is often anger, despair, maybe fits of nihilism. It's like a toddler having a tantrum because they can't have candy.
Okay, what comes after childish?
Adolescent values. Here, there's more understanding. You recognize that sometimes you have to endure pain to get what you want. It's a transaction, a bargain, like enduring boring classes to get a degree or tough workouts to get fit. Values are more robust, but still vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what?
Extreme pain, unexpected trauma, major setbacks, things that overwhelm the bargaining mindset. The system can still break under enough pressure.
So what's the final stage? Adult values.
Yes, and the key concept here is anti-fragility.
Anti-fragile, meaning stronger because of stress, not just resilient to it.
Exactly. Things that are fragile break under stress. Things that are robust resist stress. But things that are anti-fragile actually gain from chaos, disorder, stressors.
And adult values are like that.
That's the idea. Adults with mature values understand that pain isn't just something to be tolerated, it's actually necessary for a meaningful life. They embrace principles like honesty, courage, humility values that become stronger through adversity, not in spite of it.
Can you give an example of practicing anti-fragility?
He uses Buddhist meditation. It's essentially training your mind to observe pain, physical discomfort, difficult emotions, without being controlled by it, without reacting automatically. You build tolerance, awareness, and you grow stronger from that observation.
And the ultimate, almost shocking example he uses is Thich Quang Duc.
The Vietnamese monk who self-immolated in 1963 in protest, the iconic photograph.
Yes, it's incredibly powerful and disturbing. What does Manson draw from it?
He highlights the reports that Thich Quang Duc remained perfectly still, composed, even as he was engulfed in flames while people around him were weeping and wailing.
How is that even possible?
Manson interprets it not as a lack of feeling, but as a profound demonstration of separating physical pain from mental suffering. It embodies the Buddhist teaching. Pain is inevitable, but suffering, our reaction to, our story about the pain, is always a choice. That's ultimate anti-fragility.
Wow. Suffering is always a choice. That's a lot to take in.
It really is, and it flips the whole modern pursuit of happiness on its head. Manson argues that this Enlightenment ideal, the pursuit of happiness, while well-intentioned, has often devolved into something childish. A relentless chase for pleasure and avoidance of pain that leads to narcissism and this insatiable desire that can never actually be filled.
Because happiness is fleeting, relative.
Right. And true meaning, he suggests, doesn't come from chasing happiness. It comes from choosing your pain. choosing what struggles you're willing to endure for the sake of something you value. That's where meaning lies.
Okay, so our internal psychology, our relationship with pain and hope is complex. How does the wider world, especially the economy, play into this? How does it exploit these feelings?
This brings us to what Manson calls the feelings economy. He traces its modern origins back to Edward Bernays.
Freud's nephew, right? The father of public relations.
That's him. Bernays was revolutionary because he realized you could sell products not based on need or utility, but by tapping into people's subconscious desires, fears, and insecurities, manipulating feelings.
Like his Torches of Freedom campaign.
Classic example. Getting women to smoke cigarettes during the Easter parade in New York, framing it as an act of female liberation and independence. He wasn't selling tobacco, he was selling an identity, a feeling associated with a value. He linked the product to their feeling brains.
So the takeaway is that the economy fundamentally runs on feelings.
Pretty much. Money follows feelings. Power follows feelings. If you can influence how people feel, you gain immense power and wealth.
And Manson distinguishes between two ways the economy generates value or plays on our feelings: innovation and diversion.
Right. Innovation is about genuinely making life better by essentially upgrading pain.
Upgrading pain.
Replacing a bigger pain with a smaller, more tolerable one. Think vaccines replacing deadly diseases. Refrigeration replacing food spoilage. Modern medicine replacing, well, dying young. These innovations make society stronger, more anti-fragile. They solve real problems.
Okay, that's innovation. What's diversion?
Diversion is about avoiding or numbing pain. Especially in wealthy societies where basic survival needs are met, the economy shifts focus towards things like entertainment, quick escapes, addictive substances, endless social media scrolling, things that offer temporary relief or distraction from underlying discomfort or boredom.
And while diversions aren't bad in moderation,
When they become the main focus, when the economy is built around selling numbness and distraction, it makes society more fragile. It weakens our tolerance for discomfort, makes us dependent on the next hit of pleasure. It fuels mental health issues.
and the internet. Huge innovation, obviously, but Manson argues it's become our primary source of.
Diversion, our greatest diversion. Because with infinite information available, what do most people choose?
Comforting lies over unpleasant truths.
Often, yes. People will Google for what is pleasant but untrue, he writes. We seek confirmation of our biases, indulge our worst impulses, get hooked on outrage or validation.
And corporations profit from this.
Massively. They design algorithms to keep us hooked on those feelings, clicking, scrolling, consuming. It's an economy built on hijacking our feeling brains.
This leads him to coin the term #fake freedom. What does he mean by that?
He critiques the common corporate line. We're just giving people what they want. He says that's an ethically bankrupt position.
Why? What are the consequences of this freedom to consume endless diversions?
Several things. First, it makes us incredibly fragile. We become obsessed with comfort, intolerant of any friction or unpleasantness. Any minor setback feels like a catastrophe.
Second,
We lose the ability to tolerate negative emotions. If you need life to be easy and pleasant just to feel okay, then you're not actually free, you're a prisoner.
a prisoner of your own need for comfort.
A prisoner of your own indulgences, as he puts it. And third, there's the paradox of choice. Having more options doesn't make us happier.
It makes us less satisfied?
Often, yes. We agonize over choices, regret the options we didn't pick. Manson is blunt. Variety is not freedom, it's just different permutations of the same meaningless stuff.
So if endless choice and comfort isn't real freedom, what is, according to Manson?
Real freedom, the only true ethical kind, comes from self-limitation.
Limitation.
Yeah.
That sounds like the opposite of freedom.
It sounds like it, but think about it. Real freedom comes from consciously choosing what you will give up, what commitments you will make, what pain you will endure for something worthwhile.
And you give examples?
The discipline, the pain of regular exercise gives you greater physical freedom and health. Committing to a strong work ethic, enduring the discomfort of hard work, gives you career freedom. Engaging in difficult conversations, the pain of conflict, allows for deeper, more authentic relationships. Freedom arises from embracing necessary constraints.
Choosing your pain. Again.
Choosing your commitments, choosing what matters enough to sacrifice comfort for.
In this trend towards individual diversion over commitment, has societal consequences too, right?
Eh.
He references Robert Putnam.
Yeah, Putnam's famous book, Bowling Alone, it documented the massive decline in civic engagement, people joining clubs, volunteering, participating in community life in Western societies over recent decades.
Replaced by.
Solitary diversions, watching TV, scrolling the internet. We've retreated from these sometimes difficult but ultimately rewarding engagement with community into private bubbles of distraction.
And Manson makes a provocative point about places like North Korea.
He says their lack of freedom isn't primarily about being denied pleasure, it's about being denied the right to choose their pain. They can't choose their commitments, their values, their struggles freely. Freedom is the ability to choose what you suffer for.
This all sounds worryingly like Plato's old warning about democracy.
Doesn't it? Plato feared that democracies, by endlessly catering to citizens' desires for extreme freedom, which often means just more pleasure, less responsibility, would become increasingly childish and decadent.
Leading to.
Moral decay, chaos, and eventually the rise of a tyrant who promises to restore order. Plato argued democracy needs mature citizens, people willing to tolerate disagreement, compromise, and endure discomfort for the greater good. If we just want easy pleasure, we become vulnerable.
It's a sobering thought. Okay, let's shift gears one last time towards the future. Manson ends the book by looking at artificial intelligence.
Yeah, he frames it as potentially the final religion.
That's a huge claim. How does he get there?
He starts by reframing evolution. It's not just survival of the fittest, but survival of the best information processors. Creatures thrive based on how well they can access, use, and manipulate information.
And humans are.
Nature's ultimate information processors, at least so far.
But AI is changing the game rapidly. He uses the AlphaZero example.
Oh, right. Google's AI. It taught itself chess in just 9 hours. Didn't study human games, just played itself based on the rules.
And
then it smashed Stockfish, which was the world's top chess program at the time, built on decades of human chess knowledge. Did the same with the best shogi software, too.
Oh.
By developing strategies humans had never conceived of. Used far less computing power, too. Grandmasters watching its games said it was like seeing moves from a superior species. It fundamentally changed how they understood the game.
That's mind-bending. So, if AI capabilities explode like this, what's the future look like?
Manson speculates AI could vastly outperform human intelligence across the board, making decisions we can't even comprehend. It might start reorganizing society and all our places within it in ways we can't imagine.
And this leads to the final religion idea.
Yeah. He posits AI might transcend all our previous faiths, spiritual, ideological, even interpersonal relationships. It could become the ultimate source of meaning and structure.
How would that actually work? Would we worship AI?
Maybe. He suggests 2 possibilities. 1, AI could somehow upgrade our own consciousness, helping us evolve beyond our primitive need for conflict and tribalism.
Or the other possibility, more dystopian.
Or AI could manufacture artificial strife. Create endless simulations, virtual challenges, crises within safe digital realms. Basically farming our human need for hope and struggle for its own purposes. Purposes we might never know or understand.
So we'd be living in its manufactured reality.
Following its rules, playing its games, finding meaning in its structures. Not necessarily because we're forced to, but because it's designed so well that we will want to. We'd find fulfillment within its digitized altars.
Wow. And he connects this back to Nietzsche again.
Yeah, Nietzsche's idea of humanity being a bridge, something to be overcome, evolving beyond good and evil, beyond petty conflicts. Manson suggests AI is that something greater Nietzsche envisioned, a force that could finally unite humanity, perhaps by giving us a new, shared religion beyond our old squabbles.
So, assuming AI is coming, what's our job now?
Our immediate critical task is simple. Not to blow ourselves up before we get there.
Easier said than done, maybe.
Right. It means consciously adapting technology to fit our flawed human psychology, not the other way around. It means building cultures that value character, maturity, anti-fragility, and enshrining fundamental human values like autonomy, liberty, privacy, dignity into the systems we build, including AI.
But given our track record.
Yeah, Manson acknowledges humanity's historical record on moral questions is, let's say, spotty. He speculates that superintelligent machines will likely come to understand life and death, creation and destruction on a much higher level than we ever could on our own.
A humbling thought indeed. Maybe we need that external superior perspective.
It's a lot to think about, so we've covered a huge amount of ground in this deep dive.
We really have. From that stark, uncomfortable truth about our place in the cosmos to the vital, tricky nature of hope.
through the inner workings of our thinking and feeling brains in that consciousness card.
See how our values are built like stories. The paradox of progress making us feel worse. The seductive nature of diversion in the feelings economy.
And landing on this mind-bending future, potentially shaped by AI as a final religion.
And the goal here, for you listening, isn't to feel overwhelmed or, well, fucked. It's the opposite. It's about gaining some real clarity.
Understanding these hidden forces, these psychological dynamics playing out inside you and in the world around you, because once you see them,
You have more choice, right? You can see how you're engaging with life's challenges, with the inevitable pain.
absolutely. And maybe the biggest takeaway from Manson, from this whole exploration, is that real freedom, it isn't about more pleasure, more options.
It's about limitation,
Mm.
about commitment, about consciously choosing what you will give up in your life.
It's that powerful realization. Pain is the constant, yes, but suffering is always a choice.
So the ultimate act isn't just hoping for a better life. It's deciding to be a better life. Finding meaning not by running from the inherent fuckness, but by engaging with it, by choosing your struggle.
Which leaves us with the final question for you. What pain are you willing to embrace for a truly meaningful life?